5 little peppers. Oh. Five little peppers. All right then, bruv. There we go.
The little old kitchen had quieted down from the bustle and confusion of midday, and now, with its afternoon manners on, presented a holiday aspect that, as the principal room in the brown house it was eminently proper it should have, it was just on the edge of twilight, and the little Peppers, all except Ben, the oldest of the flock, were taking a breathing spell, as their mother called it, which meant some quiet work suitable for the hour. It was all the breathing spell they could remember, however, poor things, for times were hard with them now. The father had died when Phronsie was a baby, and since then Mrs. Pepper had had hard work to scrape together money enough to put bread into her children's mouths and to pay the rent of the little brown house. But she had met life too bravely to be beaten down now. So with a stout heart and a cheery face, she had worked away day after day at making coats and tailoring and mending of all descriptions, and she had seen with pride that couldn't be concealed her noisy, happy brood growing up around her, and filling her heart with comfort, and making the little brown house fairly ring with jollity and fun. Poor things, she would say to herself, they haven't had any bringing up, they've just scrambled up. And then she would set her lips together tightly and fly at her work faster than ever. I must get learning for 'em some way, but I don't see how. Once or twice she had thought, now the time's coming. But it never did, for winter shut in very cold, and it took so much more to feed and warm them that the money went faster than ever. And then, when the way seemed clear again, the store changed hands, so that for a long time she failed to get her usual supply of sacks and coats to make. And that made sad havoc in the quarters and $half laid up as her nest egg. But, well, it'll come sometime, she would say to herself, because it must. And so at it again she would fly, brisker than ever. To help Mother was the great ambition of all the children, older and younger, but in Polly and Ben's souls the desire grew so overwhelmingly great as to absorb all lesser things. Many and vast were their secret plans by which they were to astonish her at some future day, which they would only confide, as they did everything else, to one another. For this brother and sister were everything to each other, and stood loyally together through thick and thin. Polly was 10 and Ben 1 year older, and the younger 3 of the 5 little Peppers, as they were always called, looked up to them with the intensest admiration and love. What they failed to do couldn't very well be done by anyone. "Oh dear!" exclaimed Polly as she sat over in the corner by the window, helping her mother pull out basting threads from a coat she had just finished and giving an impatient twitch to the sleeve. "I do wish we could ever have any light, just as much as we want." "You don't need any light to see these threads," said Mrs. Pepper, winding up hers carefully as she spoke on an old spool. "Now take care, Polly, you broke that. Thread's dear now." "I couldn't help it," said Polly vexedly. "It snapped. Everything's dear now, seems to me. I wish we could have, ever and ever so many candles, as many as we wanted. I'd light 'em all, so there, and have it light here one night anyway." "Yes, and go dark all the rest of the year, like as anyway," observed Mrs. Pepper, stopping to untie a knot. "Folks who do so never have any candles," she added sententiously. "How many d'you have, Polly?" asked Joel curiously, laying down his hammer and regarding her with the utmost anxiety. "Oh, 200, said Polly decidedly. "I'd have 200 all in a row." 200 candles, echoed Joel in amazement. "My walkety, what a lot!" "Don't say such dreadful words, Joel," put in Polly nervously, stooping to pick up her spool of basting thread that was racing away all by itself. "'Tisn't nice." "'Tisn't worse than to wish you'd got things you haven't," retorted Joel. "I don't believe you'd light 'em all at once," he added incredulously. "Yes, I would too," replied Polly recklessly. 200 of 'em, if I had a chance, all at once. So there, Joey Pepper." "Oh," said little Davy, drawing a long sigh. "Why, 'twould be just like heaven, Polly. But wouldn't it cost money, though?" "I don't care," said Polly, giving a flounce in her chair, which snapped another thread. "Oh, dear me, I didn't mean to, Mammy. Well, I wouldn't care how much money it cost. We'd have as much light as we wanted for once, so." "Goodness," said Mrs. Pepper, "you'd have the house afire. 200 candles. Who ever heard of such a thing?" "Would they burn?" asked Phronsie anxiously, getting up from the floor where she was crouching with David, overseeing Joel nail on the cover of an old box, and going to Polly's side she awaited her answer patiently. "Burn?" said Polly. "There, that's done now, Mamsie dear." And she put the coat with the last little pat into her mother's lap. "I guess they would, Phronsie pet." And Polly caught up the little girl and spun round and round the old kitchen till they were both glad to stop. "Then," said Phronsie, as Polly put her down and stood breathless after her last glorious fit, "I do so wish we might, Polly. Just this very 1 minute." And Phronsie clasped her fat little hands in rapture at the thought. "Well," said Polly, giving a look at the old clock in the corner, "goodness me, it's 5:30, and most time for Ben to come home." Away she flew to get supper. So for the next few moments nothing was heard but the pulling out of the old table into the middle of the floor, the laying of the cloth, and all the other bustle attendant upon getting ready for Ben. Polly went skipping around, cutting the bread and bringing dishes, only stopping long enough to fling some scraps of reassuring nonsense to two boys who were thoroughly dismayed at being obliged to remove their traps into a corner. Phronsie still stood just where Polly left her. 200 candles. Oh, what could it mean? She gazed up at the old beams overhead and around the dingy walls and to the old black stove with the fire nearly out, and then over everything the kitchen contained, trying to think how it would seem to have it bright and winsome and warm, to suit Polly. "Oh!" she screamed. "Goodness!" cried Polly, taking her head out of the old cupboard in the corner. "How you scared me, Phronsie."
Fucking terrifying.
"Would they never go out?" asked the child gravely, still standing where Polly left her. "What?" asked Polly, stopping with a dish of cold potatoes in her hand. "What, Phronsie?" "Why, the candles," said the child. "The ever and ever so many pretty lights." "Oh, my senses!" cried Polly with a little laugh. "Haven't you forgotten that?" "Yes. No, that is, Phronsie, if we could have 'em all, we wouldn't ever let 'em go out." "Not once?" asked Phronsie, coming up to Polly with a little skip and nearly upsetting her, potatoes and all. "Not once, Polly, truly?" "No, not for ever and ever," said Polly. "Take care, Phronsie, there goes a potato." "No, we'd keep 'em always." "No, you don't want to," said Mrs. Pepper, coming out of the bedroom in time to catch the last words. "They won't be good tomorrow. Better have 'em tonight, Polly." "Ma'am," said Polly, setting down her potato dish on the table and staring at her mother with all her might. Have what, Mother? Why, the potatoes, to be sure, replied Mrs. Pepper. Didn't you say we'd better keep 'em, child? Oh, 'twasn't potatoes at all, said Polly, with a little gasp. 'Twas, oh dear me, here's Ben. For the door opened, and Phronsie, with a scream of delight, bounded into Ben's arms. It's just jolly, said Ben, coming in, his chubby face all aglow and his big blue eyes shining so honest and true. It's just jolly to get home. Supper ready, Polly? Yes, said Polly, that is, all but, and dashed off for Phronsie's eating apron. Sometime, said Phronsie, with her mouth half full when the meal was nearly over, we're going to be awful rich. We are, Ben. Truly. No, said Ben, affecting the most hearty astonishment. You don't say so, chick. Yes, said Phronsie, shaking her yellow head very wisely at him and diving down into her cup of very weak milk and water to see if Polly had put any sugar in by mistake, a custom always expectantly observed. Yes, we really are, Bensie, very dreadful rich. I wish we could be rich now, then, said Ben, taking another generous slice of the brown bread, in time for Mamsie's birthday, and he cast a sorrowful glance at Polly. I know, said Polly. Oh, dear. If only we could celebrate it. I don't want any other celebration, said Mrs. Pepper, beaming on them, so that a little flash of sunshine seemed to hop right down on the table, then to look around on you all. I'm rich now, and that's a fact. Mamsie doesn't mind her 5 bothers, cried Polly, jumping up and running to hug her mother, thereby producing a like desire in all the others, who immediately left their seats and followed her example. Mother's rich enough, ejaculated Mrs. Pepper, her bright black eyes glistening with delight, as the noisy troop filed back to their bread and potatoes. If we can only keep together, dears, and grow up good, so that the little brown house won't be ashamed of us, that's all I ask. Well, said Polly, in a burst of confidence to Ben, after the table had been pushed back against the wall and the dishes nicely washed, wiped, and set up neatly in the cupboard, and all traces of the meal cleared away. I don't care. Let's try to get a celebration somehow for Mamsie. How are we going to do it? Asked Ben, who was of a decidedly practical turn of mind, and thus couldn't always follow Polly in her flights of imagination. I don't know, said Polly, but we must. Some way. Oh, that's no good, said Ben disdainfully. Then, seeing Polly's face, he added kindly, let's think, though, and perhaps there'll be some way. Oh, I know, cried Polly in delight. I know the very thing, Ben. Let's make her a cake, a big one, you know, and she'll see you bake it, said Ben, or else she'll smell it, and that'd be just as bad. No, she won't either, replied Polly. Don't you know she's going to help Mrs. Henderson tomorrow? So there. So she is, said Ben. Good for you, Polly. You always think of everything. And then, said Polly, with a comfortable little feeling in her heart at Ben's praise, why, we can have it all out of the way, perfectly splendid when she comes home. And besides, Grandma Bascom will tell me how. You know, we've only got brown flour, Ben. I mean to go right over and ask her now. Oh, no, you mustn't, cried Ben, catching hold of her arm as she was preparing to fly off. Mammy'll find it out. Better wait till tomorrow. And besides, Polly, and Ben stopped, unwilling to dampen this propitious beginning, the stove will act like everything tomorrow. I know it will. Then what'll you do? It shan't, said Polly, running up to look it in the face. If it does, I'll shake it, the mean old thing. The idea of Polly shaking the lumbering old black affair sent Ben into such a peal of laughter that it brought all the other children running to the spot, and nothing would do but they must one and all be told the reason. So Polly and Ben took them into confidence, which so elated them that half an hour after, when long past her bedtime, Phronsie declared, I'm not going to bed. I want to sit up like Polly. Don't tease her, whispered Polly to Ben, who thought she ought to go. So she sat straight up on her little stool, winking like everything to keep awake. At last, as Polly was in the midst of one of her liveliest sallies, over tumbled Phronsie, a sleepy little heap, right onto the floor. I want to go to bed, she said. Take me, Polly. I thought so, laughed Polly, and bundled her off into the bedroom. And so, the minute her mother had departed for the minister's house next morning, and Ben had gone to his day's work chopping wood for Deacon Blodgett, Polly assembled her forces around the old stove and proceeded to business. She and the children had been up betimes that morning to get through with the work, and now, as they glanced around with a look of pride on the neatly swept floor, the dishes all done, and everything in order, the moment their mother's back was turned, they began to implore Polly to hurry and begin. "It's most 11 o'clock," said Joel, who, having no work to do outside that day, was prancing around, wild to help along the festivities. "It's most 11 o'clock, Polly Pepper. You won't have it done." "Oh, no, 'tisn't either, Joel," said Polly, with a flushed face and her arms full of kindlings, glancing up at the old clock as she spoke. "'Tisn't but 9:15. There, take care, Phronsie. You can't lift off the cover. Oh, do help her, Davy." "No, let me," cried Joel, springing forward. "It's my turn. Dave's got the kindlings. My turn, Polly." "So 'tis," said Polly. "I forgot there," as she flung in the wood and poked it all up in a nice little heap coaxingly. "It can't help but burn. Oh, what a cake we'll have for Mamsie." "It'll be so big," cried Phronsie, hopping around on one toe, "that Mamsie won't know what to do, will she, Polly?" "No, I don't believe she will," said Polly gaily, stuffing in more wood. "Oh, dear, there goes Ben's putty. It's all fallen out." "So it has," said Joel, going around back of the stove to explore, and then he added cheerfully, "It's bigger'n ever. Oh, it's an awful big hole, Polly." "Oh, now whatever shall we do?" said Polly in great distress. "That hateful crack, and Ben's clear off to Deacon Blodgett's." "I'll run and get him," cried Joel briskly. "I'll bring him right home in 10 minutes. "Oh, no, you must not, Joe," cried Polly in alarm. "Wouldn't ever be right to take him from his work. Mamsie wouldn't like it." "What will you do then?" asked Joel, pausing on his way to the door. "I'm sure I don't know," said Polly, getting down on her knees to examine the crack. "I shall have to stuff it with paper, I suppose." "It won't stay in," said Joel scornfully. "Don't you know you stuffed it before last week?" "I know," said Polly with a small sigh, and sitting down on the floor she remained quite still for a minute, with her two black hands stuck out straight before her. "Can't you fix it?" asked Davy soberly, coming up. "Then we can't have the cake." "Oh, dear me!" exclaimed Polly, springing up quickly. "Don't be afraid. We're going to have that cake. There, you ugly old thing, you—" This to the stove. "See what you've done." As two big tears flew out of Phronsie's brown eyes at the direful prospect, and the sorrowful faces of the two boys looked up into Polly's own for comfort. "I can fix it. I most know. Do get some paper, Joe, as quick as you can." "Don't know where there is any," said Joel, rummaging around. "It's all torn up, except the almanac. Can't I take that?" "Oh, mercy, no," cried Polly. "Put it right back, Joe. I guess there's some in the woodshed." "There isn't either," said little Davy quickly. "Joel and me took it to make kites with." "Oh, dear," groaned Polly. "I don't know what we shall do, unless—" as a bright thought struck her. "You let me have the kites, boys." "Can't," said Joel. "They all flew away or got tore up." "Oh, well now, children," said Polly, turning around impressively upon them, the effect of which was heightened by the extremely crocky appearance she had gained in her explorations, "we must have some paper or something to stop up that old hole with, some way. There." "I know," said little Davy, "where we'll get it. It's upstairs." And without another word he flew out of the room, and the next minute he put into Polly's hand an old leather boot top, one of his most treasured possessions. "You can chip it," he said, "real fine, and then 'twill go in." "So we can," said Polly. "Oh, and you're a real good boy, Davy, to give it. That's a splendid present to help celebrate for Mamsie." "I'd give a boot top," said Joel, looking grimly at the precious bit of leather which Polly was rapidly stripping into little bits, "if I had it. I don't have anything." "I know you would, Joey," said Polly kindly. "There now, you'll stay, I guess." And with the united efforts of the two boys, cheered on by Phronsie's enthusiastic little crow of delight, the leather was crammed into place, and the fire began to burn. And now Polly's cake was done and ready for the oven. With many admiring glances from herself and Phronsie, who, with Seraphina, an extremely old but greatly revered doll, tightly hugged in her arms, was watching everything with the biggest of eyes from the depths of the old chair. It was placed in the oven, the door shut to with a happy little bang, and then Polly gathered Phronsie up in her arms and sat down in the chair to have a good time with her and to watch the process of cooking. "And now," said Polly, after they had all sat around the stove another half hour, watching and sniffing expectantly, "the cake's done." "Oh, dreadful! It's turning black!" And quick as a wink, Polly twitched it out with energy and set it on the table. Oh dear, of all things in the world, the beautiful cake presented a forlorn appearance as it stood there in anything but holiday attire. It was quite black on the top, in the center of which was a depressing little dump, as if to say, "My feelings wouldn't allow me to rise to the occasion." "Now," said Polly, turning away with a little fling and looking at the stove, "I hope you're satisfied, you old thing. You've spoiled our Mamsie's birthday." And without a bit of warning, she sat right down in the middle of the floor and began to cry as hard as she could. "Well, I never," said a cheery voice that made the children skip. "It's Mrs. Beebe. Oh, it's Mrs. Beebe," cried Davy. "See, Polly." Polly scrambled up to her feet, ashamed to be caught thus, and whisked away the tears. The others explained to their new visitor the sad disappointment that had befallen them, and she was soon ohing and eyeing to suit even their distressed little souls. "You poor critters, you," she exclaimed at last, for about the 50th time. "Here, Polly, here's some posies for you, and—" "Oh, thank you," cried Polly with a radiant face, and burying her nose in the bunch for a good sniff. "Why, Mrs. Beebe, we can put them in here, can't we? The very thing." And she set the little knot of flowers in the hollow of the cake, and there they stood and nodded away to the delighted children, like brave little comforters as they were. "The very thing," echoed Mrs. Beebe, tickled to death to see their delight. "It looks beautiful, I declare. And now I must run along or Pa'll be worrying." And so the good woman trotted out to her waiting husband, who was impatient to be off. "Where'll you put the cake?" asked Joel. "Oh, in the cupboard," said Polly, taking it up. "There, Joe, you can climb up and put it clear back in the corner. Oh, wait, I must take the posies off and keep them in fresh water." So the cake was finally deposited in a place of safety, followed by the eyes of all the children. "Now," said Polly, as they shut the door tight, "don't you go to looking at the cupboard, Joey, or Mammy'll guess something." "Can't I just open it a little crack and take one smell when she ain't looking?" asked Joel. "I should think you might, Polly, just one." "No," said Polly firmly. "Not one, Joe. She'll guess if you do." The first thing Polly did in the morning was to run to the old cupboard, followed by all the others, to see if the cake was safe. And then it had to be drawn out and dressed anew with the flowers, for they had decided to have it on the breakfast table. "It looks better," whispered Polly to Ben, "than it did yesterday. And aren't the flowers pretty?" "It looks good enough to eat anyway," said Ben, smacking his lips. "Well, we tried," said Polly, stifling a sigh. "Now, boys, call Mamsie. Everything's ready." Oh, how surprised their mother appeared when she was ushered out to the feast, and the full glory of the table burst upon her. Her delight in the cake was fully enough to satisfy the most exacting mind. She admired and admired it on every side, protesting that she shouldn't have supposed Polly could possibly have baked it so well in the old stove. And then she cut it, and gave a piece to every child, with a little posy on top. Wasn't it good, though? Like many other things, the cake proved to be better on trial than it looked, and so turned out to be really quite a good surprise all around. "Why can't I ever have a birthday?" asked Joel, finishing the last crumb of his piece. "I should think I might," he added reflectively. "Why, you have, Joe," said Ben. "8 of 'em." "What a story!" ejaculated Joel. "When did I have 'em? I never had a cake, did I, Polly?" "Not a cake birthday, Joel," said his mother. "You haven't got to that yet." "When's it a-comin'?" asked Joel, who was decidedly of a matter-of-fact turn of mind. "I don't know," said Mrs. Pepper, laughing, "but there's plenty of time ahead." One day, a few weeks after Polly was busy in the kitchen, Phronsie was out in the orchard, as the one scraggly apple tree was called by courtesy, singing her rag doll to sleep under its sheltering branches. But Baby was cross and wouldn't go to sleep, and Phronsie was on the point of giving up and returning to the house, when a strain of music made her pause with Dolly in her apron. There she stood, with her finger in her mouth in utter astonishment, wondering where the sweet sounds came from. "Oh, Phronsie!" screamed Polly from the back door. "Where are—" "Oh, here! Come quick! It's the beautifulest!" "What is it?" eagerly asked the little one, hopping over the stubby grass, leaving the poor discarded baby on its snubby nose where it dropped in her hurry. "Oh, a monkey!" cried Polly. "Do hurry! The sweetest little monkey you ever saw." "What is a monkey?" asked Phronsie, scurrying after Polly to the gate where her mother was waiting for her. "Why, a monkey's a monkey," explained Polly. "I don't know any better than that. Here he is. Isn't he splendid?" And she lifted Phronsie up to the big post where she could see finely. "Ooh, ooh!" screamed little Phronsie. "See him, Polly. Just see him." A man with an organ was standing in the middle of the road, playing away with all his might, and at the end of a long rope was a lively little monkey in a bright red coat and a smart cocked hat. The little creature pulled off his hat, and with one long jump coming on the fence, he made Phronsie a most magnificent bow. Strange to say, the child wasn't in the least frightened, but put out her little fat hand, speaking in gentle tones. "Poor little monkey! Come here, poor little monkey." Turning up his little wrinkled face and glancing fearfully at his master, Jocko began to grimace and beg for something to eat. The man pulled the string and struck up a merry tune, and in a minute the monkey spun around and around at such a lively pace and put in so many queer antics that the little audience was fairly convulsed with laughter. I can't pay you," said Mrs. Pepper, wiping her eyes when at last the man pulled up the strap, whistling to Jocko to jump up. "But I'll give you something to eat, and the monkey, too. He shall have something for his pains in amusing the children." The man looked very cross when she brought him out only brown bread and 2 cold potatoes. "Haven't you got nothing better than that?" "It's as good as we have," answered Mrs. Pepper. The man threw down the bread in the road, but Jocko thankfully ate his share, Polly and Phronsie busily feeding him, and then he turned and snapped up the portion his master had left in the dusty road. Then they moved on, Mrs. Pepper and Polly going back to their work in the kitchen. A little down the road the man struck up another tune. Phronsie, who had started merrily to tell Baby all about it, stopped a minute to hear, and she didn't go back to the orchard. About 2 hours after, Polly said merrily, "I'm going to call Phronsie and Mammy. She must be awfully tired and hungry by this time." She sang gaily on the way, "I'm coming, Phronsie, coming." "Why, where—" Peeping under the tree, Baby lay on its face disconsolately on the ground, and the orchard was empty. Phronsie was gone. "It's no use," said Ben to the distracted household and such of the neighbors as the news had brought hurriedly to the scene, "to look any more around here. But somebody must go towards Hingham. The man with the monkey be likely to go that way." "No one could tell where he would go," cried Polly, wringing her hands. "But he'd change, Ben, if he thought folks would think he'd gone there," said Mrs. Pepper. "We must go all roads," said Ben firmly. "One must take the stage to Boxville, and I'll take Deacon Brown's wagon on the Hingham Road, and somebody else must go to Toad Hollow." "I'll go in the stage," screamed Joel, who could scarcely see out of his eyes, he had cried so. "I'll find her, I know." "Be spry then, Joe, and catch it at the corner." Everybody soon knew that little Phronsie Pepper had gone off with cross organ man and an awful monkey. And in the course of an hour, dozens of people were out on the hot, dusty roads in search. "What's the matter?" asked a testy old gentleman in the stage of Joel, who, in his anxiety to see both sides of the road at once, bobbed the old gentleman in the face so often as the stage lurched that at last he knocked his hat over his eyes. "My sister's gone off with a monkey," explained Joel, bobbing over to the other side, as he thought he caught sight of something pink that he felt sure must be Phronsie's apron. "Stop! Stop! There she is!" he roared, and the driver, who had his instructions and was fully in sympathy, pulled so suddenly that the old gentleman flew over into the opposite seat. "Where?" But when they got up to it, Joel saw that it was only a bit of pink calico flapping on a clothesline, so he climbed back and away they rumbled again. The others were having the same luck. No trace could be found of the child. To Ben, who took the Hingham road, the minutes seemed... I won't go back, he muttered, until I take her. I can't see Mother's face. But the 10 miles were nearly traversed. Almost the last hope was gone. Into every thicket and lurking place by the roadside had he peered, but no Phronsie. Deacon Brown's horse began to lag. Go on, said Ben hoarsely. Oh, dear Lord, make me find her. The hot sun poured down on the boy's face, and he had no cap. What cared he for that? On and on he went. Suddenly the horse stopped. Ben doubled up the reins to give him a cut when, whoa! He roared so loud that the horse, in very astonishment, gave a bounce that nearly flung him headlong. But he was over the wheel in a twinkling, and up with a bound to a small thicket of scrubby bushes on a high hill by the roadside. Here lay a little bundle on the ground, and close by it a big black dog, and over the hole, standing guard, was a boy a little bigger than Ben, with honest gray eyes, and the bundle was Phronsie. Don't wake her up, said the boy warningly, as Ben, with a hungry look in his eyes, leaped up the hill. She's tired to death. She's my sister, cried Ben. Our Phronsie. I know it, said the boy kindly, but I wouldn't wake her up yet if I were you. I'll tell you all about it. And he took Ben's hand, which was as cold as ice.
Oops. That was exciting.
It's all right, Prince.
No, it's not all right.
It's all right, Prince, the boy added encouragingly to the big dog that, lifting his noble head, had turned 2 big eyes steadily on Ben. He's all right. Lie down again. Then, flinging himself down on the grass, he told Ben how he came to rescue Phronsie. Prince and I were out for a stroll, said he. I live over in Hingham, pointing to the pretty little town just a short distance before them in the hollow. That is, laughing, I do this summer. Well, we were out strolling along about a mile below here on the crossroads, and all of a sudden, just as if they sprung right up out of the ground, I saw a man with an organ and a monkey and a little girl coming along the road. She was crying, and as soon as Prince saw that, he gave a growl. And then the man saw us, and he looked so mean and cringing. I knew there must be something wrong, and I inquired of him what he was doing with that little girl. And then she looked up and begged so with her eyes, and all of a sudden broke away from him and ran towards me, screaming, I want Polly. Well, the man sprang after her. Then I tell you, here the boy forgot his caution about waking Phronsie. We went for him, Prince and I. Prince is a noble fellow. Here the dog's ears twitched very perceptibly. And he kept at that man. Oh, how he bit him, till he had to run for fear the monkey would get killed. Was Phronsie frightened? Asked Ben. She's never seen strangers. Oh, not a bit, said the boy cheerily. She just clung to me like everything. I only wish she was my sister, he added impulsively. What were you going to do with her if I hadn't come along? Asked Ben. Well, I got out on the main road, said the boy, because I thought anybody who had lost her would probably come through this way. But if somebody hadn't come, I was going to carry her into Hingham, and then Father and I'd have contrived some way to do. Well, said Ben as the boy finished and fastened his bright eyes on him, somebody did come along, and now I must get her home about as fast as I can for poor Mammy. And Polly. Yes, said the boy, I'll help you lift her. Perhaps she won't wake up. The big dog moved away a step or two, but still kept his eye on Phronsie. There, said the boy brightly as they laid the child on the wagon seat. Now when you get in, you can hold her head. That's it, he added, seeing them both fixed to his satisfaction. But Ben still lingered. Thank you, he tried to say. I know, laughed the boy, only it's Prince instead of me, and pulled forward the big black creature who had followed faithfully down the hill to see the last of it. To the front, sir, there. We're coming to see you, he continued, if you will let us. Where do you live? Do come, said Ben, lighting up, for he was just feeling he couldn't bear to look his last on the merry, honest face. Anybody'll tell you where Mrs. Pepper lives. Is she a Pepper? Asked the boy, laughing and pointing to the unconscious little heap in the wagon. And are you a Pepper? Yes, said Ben, laughing too. There are 5 of us besides Mother. Oh, jolly, that's something like. Goodbye. Come on, Prince. Then away to mother. Phronsie never woke up nor turned over once till she was put a little pink sleepy heap into her mother's arms. Joel was there crying bitterly at his forlorn search. The testy old gentleman in the seat opposite had relented and ordered the coach about and brought him home in an outburst of grief when all hope was gone. And one after another they had all come back, disheartened to the distracted mother. Polly alone clung to hope. Ben will bring her, Mammy. I know God will let him, she whispered. Home and mother. Little Phronsie slept all that night straight through. The neighbors came in softly, and with awestruck visages stole into the bedroom to look at the child, and as they crept out again, thoughts of their own little ones tugging at their hearts. The tears would drop unheeded. Up the stairs of the hotel, 2 steps at a time, ran a boy with a big black dog at his heels. Come on, Prince, soft now, as they neared a door at the end of the corridor. It opened into a corner room overlooking the park, as the small open space in front of the hotel was called. Within the room there were sunshine and comfort, it being the most luxurious one in the house, which the proprietor had placed at the disposal of this most exacting guest. He didn't look very happy, however, the gentleman who sat in an easy-chair by the window, a large, handsome old gentleman, whose whole bearing showed plainly that personal comfort had always been his, and was, therefore, a matter neither of surprise nor of thankfulness. "Where have you been?" he asked, turning around to greet the boy, who came in, followed by Prince. "Oh, such a long story, father," he cried, flushed, his eyes sparkling as he flung back the dark hair from his forehead. "You can't even guess." "Never mind now," said the old gentleman testily. "Your stories are always long." "You don't know how splendid Prince has been, nor—" "I hope, Jasper, your dog has not been doing anything violent," said the old gentleman. "Oh, he's done the most splendid thing you ever saw. Why, he saved a little girl, father, from a cross old organ man, and he drove that man. Oh, you should have seen him run. She was such a cunning little thing. She wasn't more than 4 years old, and she had such a pretty little yellow head, and she said so funnily, 'I want Polly.'" "Did she?" said the old gentleman, getting interested in spite of himself. "Well, what then?" "Why then, sir," said Jasper, delighted at his success in diverting his thoughts, "Prince and I waited and waited, and I was just going to bring her here to ask you what we should do, when, just as we really didn't know what to do, don't you think there was a big wagon came along drawn by the ricketiest old horse, and a boy in the wagon looking both sides of the road and into every bush, just as wild as he could be, and before I could think hardly he spied us, and if he didn't jump, I thought he'd broken his leg. And he's a splendid fellow, I just know," cried Jasper, waxing enthusiastic, "and his name is Pepper." "Pepper," repeated his father. "No nice family ever had the name of Pepper." "Well, I don't care," and Jasper's laugh was loud and merry. "He's nice, anyway, I know, and the little thing's nice, and I'm going to see them. Can't I, father?" "Dear me," said his father, "how can you, Jasper? You do have the strangest tastes I ever heard of." "It's dreadfully dull here," pleaded the boy, touching the right string. "You know that yourself, father, and I don't know any boys around here, and Prince and I are so lonely on our walks." "Do let me, father." The old gentleman, who really cared very little about it, turned away, muttering, "Well, I'm sure I don't care. Go where you like." When a knock was heard at the door, and the paper was handed in, which broke up the conversation and restored good humor. The next day but one, Ben was out by the woodpile trying to break up some kindlings for Polly, who was washing up the dishes and otherwise preparing for the delights of baking day. "Hello," said a voice he thought he knew. He turned around to see the merry-faced boy and the big black dog that immediately began to wag his tail as if willing to recognize him. "You see, I thought you'd never look round," said the boy with a laugh. "How's the little girl?" "Oh, you have come, really," cried Ben, springing over the woodpile with a beaming face. "Polly!" But Polly was already by the door with the dishcloth in hand. "This is my sister Polly," began Ben, and then stopped, not knowing the boy's name. "I'm Jasper King," said the boy, stepping upon the flat stone by Polly's side and taking off his cap. He put out his hand. "And this is Prince," he added. Polly put her hand in his and received a hearty shake, and then she sprang over the big stone, dishcloth and all, and just flung her arms around the dog's neck. "Oh, you splendid fellow, you," she said. "Don't you know we all think you're as good as gold?" The dog submitted to this astonishing proceeding as if he liked it, while Jasper, delighted with Polly's appreciation, beamed down on them and struck up a friendship with her on the instant. "Now I must call Phronsie," said Polly, getting up, her face as red as a rose. "Here she is!" cried Jasper, meeting her at the door. The little soapy hands were grasped and kissing her. "Ooh," he said, as the soft soap plentifully spread on her face met his mouth. "She's been washing her littlest dolly," said Polly. "I wish Mamsie was home," said Polly, polishing up the last cup carefully. "Why, here she comes now. Oh, Mamsie dear," she cried, "do, Joe, run and take her bundle." Mrs. Pepper stopped a minute to kiss Phronsie. Her baby was dearer than ever to her now. Then her eye fell on Jasper, who stood respectfully waiting and watching her with great interest. "I guess you'll never know how much you did do," said Mrs. Pepper, then looking with a long, keen gaze into the boy's eyes that met her own so frankly and kindly. And then, somehow, the hubbub ceased. Polly went on with her work, and the others separated, and Mrs. Pepper and Jasper had a long talk. When the mother's eyes fell on Phronsie playing around on the floor, she gave the boy a grateful smile that he thought was beautiful. "Well, I declare," said Jasper at last, looking up at the old clock in the corner by the side of the cupboard. "I'm afraid I'll miss the stage, and then Father'll never let me come again. Come, Prince." "Oh, don't go," cried Phronsie, wailing. "Let Doggy stay. Oh, make him stay, Mammy." "I can't, Phronsie," said Mrs. Pepper, smiling, "if he thinks he ought to go." "I'll come again," said Jasper eagerly, "if I may, ma'am." He looked up at Mrs. Pepper as he stood cap in hand, waiting for the answer. "I'm sure we should be glad, if your father'll be willing," she added, thinking proudly, "My children are an honor to anybody," as she glanced around on the bright little group she could call her own. "But be sure, Jasper," as she laid her hand on his arm as she looked down into his eyes, "that your father is willing, that's all." "Oh, yes, ma'am," said the boy, "but he will be, I guess, if he feels well." "Then come on Thursday," said Polly, "and can't we bake something then, Mammy?" "I'm sure I don't care," laughed Mrs. Pepper, "but you won't find much but brown flour and meal to bake with." "Well, we can pretend," said Polly, "and we can cut the cakes with the heart shape, and they'll do for anything." "Oh, I'll come," laughed Jasper, ready for such lovely fun in the old kitchen. "Look out for me on Thursday, Ben." So Jasper and Prince took their leave, all the children accompanying them to the gate, and then after seeing him fairly started on a smart run to catch the stage, Prince scampering at his heels, they all began to sing his praises and to wish for Thursday to come. But Jasper didn't come. Thursday came and went, a beautiful, bright, sunny day, but with no signs of the merry boy, whom all had begun to love, nor of the big black dog. The children had made all the needful preparations with much ostentation and bustle, and were in a state of excited happiness, ready for any gale. But the last hope had to be given up, as the old clock ticked away, hour after hour. And at last Polly had to put Phronsie to bed, who wouldn't stop crying enough to eat her supper, the dreadful disappointment. The next morning Ben had to go to the store after some more meal. As he was going out rather dismally, the storekeeper, who was also postmaster, called out, "Oh, hello there." "Here," said Mr. Atkins. "You got a sister Polly, haven't you?" "Yes," said Ben, wondering what was coming next. "Well, she's got a letter," said the postmaster, holding up a nice big envelope, looking just like those Ben had so many times wished for. That magic piece of paper danced before the boy's eyes for a minute. Then he said, "It can't be for her, Mr. Atkins. Why, she's never had one." "Well, she's got one now, sure enough," said Mr. Atkins. "Here 'tis, plain enough." And he read what he had no need to study much, as it already passed examination by his own and his wife's faithful eyes. "Miss Polly Pepper, near the turnpike, Badgertown. That's her, isn't it?" he added, laying it down before Ben's eyes. "Must be first time for everything, you know, my boy." And he laughed long over his own joke. "So take it and run along home." For Ben still stood looking at it and not offering to stir. If you say so, said the boy, as if Mr. Atkins had given him something out of his own pocket. But I'm afraid 'tisn't for Polly. Then, buttoning up the precious letter in his jacket, he spun along home as never before. Polly! Polly! He screamed. And then the kitchen was in an uproar as the precious missive was put into Polly's hands, and they all gathered round her, wondering and examining, till Ben thought he would go wild with the delay. Do open it, said Ben. At last it was open, and they all, holding their breath, gazed awestruck while Polly drew out the mysterious missive. What does it say? Gasped Mrs. Pepper. Dear Miss Polly, I was so sorry I couldn't come on Thursday. Oh, it's Jasper! It's Jasper! Cried all the children in a breath. I told you so, cried Ben and Polly, perfectly delighted to find their friend vindicated fully. There, Joey Pepper. Well, I don't care, cried Joe, nothing daunted. He didn't come anyway. Do go on, Polly. I was so sorry I couldn't come, began Polly. You read that, said Joel. I know it, said Polly, but it's just lovely. On Thursday, but my father was sick and I couldn't leave him. If you don't mind, I'll come again. I mean, I'll come some other day, if it's just as convenient for you, for I do so want the baking and the nice time. I forgot to say that I had a cold, too, but my father is willing I should come when I get well. Give my love to all, and especially remember me respectfully to your mother, your friend Jasper Elliott King. Oh, lovely, lovely, cried Polly, flying around with the letter in her hand. So he is coming, really and truly. Ben was just as wild as she was, for no one knew but Polly just how the new friend had stepped into his heart. Phronsie went to sleep happy, hugging Baby. And don't you think, Baby dear, she whispered sleepily, and Polly heard her say as she was tucking her in, that Jasper is really coming, really, and the big, beautiful doggy, too. And now I tell you, said Polly the next day, let's bake Jasper something, can't we, Ma? Oh, do, cried all the other children, let's. But what'll it be, Polly? I don't know about this, interrupted Mrs. Pepper. We haven't any white flour, Polly. I know, said Polly, but we'll make him a brown. It'll do, if you'll give us some raisins. You know there's some in the bowl, Mammy. And soon a pleasant hum and bustle went on around the baking table, the center of attraction. Now, said Phronsie, coming up to the table and standing on tiptoe to see Polly measure out the flour, I'm a-going to bake something for my sick man, I am. It's Jasper's father, I guess she means, said Mrs. Pepper over in the corner. But what in the world? Yes, cried Phronsie, perfectly delighted at being at last understood, and hopping on one toe. My sick man. A gingerbread boy, said Phronsie promptly. He'd like that best, poor sick man. And she commenced to climb up to active preparations. Phronsie, said Mrs. Pepper, hadn't you rather wait and give your gingerbread boy to Jasper for his father when he comes? Oh, no, cried Phronsie, twisting in her chair in great apprehension. I want to send it now, I do. Well, Polly, said her mother, laughing, after all, it's best, I think, to let her. It can't do any harm anyway. When the little cakes were done, 8 of them, and set upon the table for exhibition, they one and all protested that they never saw so fine a lot. Polly was delighted with the praise they received and her mother's commendation that she was growing a better cook every day. But my gingerbread boy, cried Phronsie, running eagerly along with a particularly ugly-looking specimen of a cake figure in her hand, is the beautifulest, isn't it, Polly? Oh, dear, groaned Polly. It looks just awful, doesn't it, Ben? Oh, laughed Joel in derision. His leg is crooked, see, Phronsie? And he hasn't but one eye. So Polly packed the little cakes neatly in 2 rows and laid the gingerbread boy in a fascinating attitude across the top. He looks as if he'd been struck by lightning, said Ben, viewing him critically as he came in the door with the paper. Be still, said Polly, trying not to laugh. That's because he baked so funny. It made his feet stick out. After this, an elaborate letter was written and signed by all the children. We most of us knew you were sick because you didn't come, and we liked your letter telling us so because we'd all felt so badly, and Phronsie cried herself to sleep. The gingerbread boy is for your father. Please excuse it, but Phronsie would make it for him because he is sick. There isn't any more to write, and besides, I can't write good, and Ben's tired. From us all. The little package was entrusted by Ben to Mr. Blodgett, who happened to be going to Hingham that day. "Oh, Ben!" cried Jasper, overtaking him by a smart run as he was turning in at the little brown gate one morning 3 days after. "Do wait!" "Hello!" cried Ben, turning around and setting down his load, a bag of salt and a basket of potatoes, and viewing Jasper and Prince with great satisfaction. "Yes, here I am," said Jasper, "and how I've run! That fellow on the stage was dreadfully slow in getting here. Oh, you're so good," he said, and his eyes, brimful of gladness, beamed on Ben. "The cakes were awfully good, and 'twas great fun to get your letter." "Did you like it?" asked Ben, the color up all over his brown face. "Like it!" cried Jasper. "Why, 'twas just splendid, and the cakes were royal. Isn't Polly smart, though, to bake like that?" he added admiringly. "Was your father angry about the gingerbread boy?" Ben asked timidly, trembling for an answer. "Oh, dear!" cried Jasper, tumbling over on the grass. "Don't, don't! I shan't be good for anything if you make me laugh. Oh, wasn't it funny?" And he rolled over and over, shaking with glee. "Yes," said Ben, immensely relieved to find that no offense had been taken. "But she would send it. Polly tried not to have her, and she most cried when Phronsie was so determined, 'cause she said your father'd never let you come again. Oh, it's just lovely in Phronsie," said the boy, sitting up and wiping his eyes. "But oh, it was so funny. You ought to have seen my father, Ben Pepper." "Oh, then he was angry?" cried Ben. "No, indeed he wasn't," said Jasper. "Don't you think it. You know, it did him lots of good, for he'd been feeling real badly that morning. He hadn't eaten any breakfast, and when he saw that gingerbread boy," here Jasper rolled over again with a peal of laughter, "and heard the message, he just put back his head and he laughed. Why, I never heard him laugh as he did then. And he ate a big dinner, and all that afternoon he felt as good as could be. And he says he's coming to see the little girl that baked him for him before we go home." Ben nearly tumbled over by the side of Jasper at these words. "Coming to see us?" he gasped. "Yes," said Jasper, who had scarcely gotten over his own astonishment about it. For nothing could have amazed him more than to hear his father say cheerily, "Well, Jasper, my boy, I guess I shall have to drive over and see your little girl, since she's been polite enough to bake me this," pointing to the wild-looking gingerbread boy. "Come in and tell him about it," cried Ben radiantly, picking up his potatoes and salt. "It's all right, Polly," he said in a jubilant voice, "for here's Jasper, and he'll tell you so himself." "Shh!" said Jasper warningly. "Don't let Phronsie hear." "Well, here's my pet now." And after bobbing lovingly to the others with eyes beaming over with fun, he caught up the little girl who was screaming, "Oh, here's Jasper and my beautiful doggie." "Now, Phronsie," he cried, "give me a kiss. You haven't any soft soap today, have you?" "No, that's good." Nice one. Now, your gingerbread boy was just splendid." "Did he eat it?" asked the child in grave delight. "Well, no, he hasn't eaten it yet," said Jasper, smiling on the others. "He's keeping it to look at, Phronsie." "I should think so," groaned Polly. "Never mind, Polly," Ben whispered. "Jasper's been telling me about it. His father liked it. He did truly." "Oh," said Polly. had eyes, said Phronsie, going back to the charms of the gingerbread boy. I know it, said Jasper admiringly. So he did. Rather deep sunk one of 'em was, muttered Ben. And I'll bake you one, Jasper, said the child as he put her down. I will truly, some day. And then they had the baking, and Polly tied one of her mother's ample aprons on Jasper, as Mrs. Pepper had left directions if he should come while she was away, and he developed such a taste for cookery, and had so splendid improvements on the Peppers' simple ideas, that the children thought it the most fortunate thing in the world that he came, and one and all voted him a most charming companion. The interest over the baking soon dwindled away, until a horrible smell of something burning brought them all to their senses. "Oh, the house is a-burning!" cried Polly. "Oh, get a pail of water!" "'Tisn't either," said Jasper, snuffing wisely. "Oh, I know, I forgot all about it. I do beg your pardon." And running to the stove, he knelt down and drew out of the oven a black, odorous mass, which with a crestfallen air he brought to Polly. "I'm no end sorry I made such a mess of it," he said. "I meant it for you." "'Tisn't any matter," said Polly kindly. When they parted, Jappy and the little Peppers were sworn friends, and the boy, happy in his good times in the cheery little home, felt the hours long between the visits that his father, when he saw the change that they wrought in his son, willingly allowed him to make. "Goodness me!" exclaimed Mrs. Pepper one day in the last of September, as a carriage drawn by a pair of handsome horses stopped at their door. "Here comes Mr. King, I do believe. We never looked worse than we do today." "I don't care," said Polly, flying out of the bedroom. "Jappy's with him, Mamma, and it'll be nice, I guess. At any rate, Phronsie's clean as a pink," she thought to herself, looking at the little maiden, busy with baby, to whom she was teaching to fix up, for a tall, portly gentleman, leaning on his heavy, gold-headed cane, was walking up from the little brown gate to the big flat stone that served as a step. Jasper and Prince followed decorously. "Is this little Miss Pepper?" he asked pompously of Polly, who answered his rap on the door. Now whether she was little Miss Pepper, she had never stopped to consider. "I don't know, sir. I'm Polly." And then she blushed bright as a rose, and the laughing brown eyes looked beyond to Jasper, who stood on the walk and smiled encouragingly. "Is your mother in?" asked the old gentleman, who was so tall he could scarcely enter the low door. And then Mrs. Pepper came forward, and Jasper introduced her, and the old gentleman bowed and sat down in the seat Polly placed for him, and Mrs. Pepper thanked him with a heart overflowing with gratitude, through lips that would tremble even then, for all that Jasper had done for them. And the old gentleman said, but he looked at his son, and something shone in his eye for just a moment. Phronsie had retreated with baby in her arms behind the door on the new arrival, but seeing everything progressing finely, and overcome by her extreme desire to see Jappy and Prince, she began by peeping out with big eyes to observe how things were going on. Just then the old gentleman happened to say, "Well, where is my little girl that baked me a cake so kindly?" Then Phronsie, forgetting all else but her poor sick man, who also was Jasper's father, rushed out from behind the door, and coming up to the stately old gentleman in the chair, she looked up pityingly and said, shaking her yellow head, "Poor sick man, was my boy good?" After that there was no more gravity and ceremony. In a moment Phronsie was perched upon old Mr. King's knee and playing with his watch, while the others, freed from all restraint, were chatting and laughing happily, till some of the cheeriness overflowed and warmed the heart of the old gentleman. "We go tomorrow," he said, rising and looking at his watch. "Why, is it possible that we have been here an hour? There, my little girl, will you give me a kiss?" And he bent his handsome old head down to the childish face, upturned to his confidingly. "Don't go," said the child, as she put up her little lips in grave confidence. "I do like you. I do." "Oh, Phronsie," began Mrs. Pepper. "Don't reprove her, madam," said the old gentleman, who liked it immensely. "Yes, we go tomorrow," he said, looking around on the group, to whom this was a blow they little expected. They had surely thought Jasper was to stay a week longer. I received a telegram this morning that I must be in the city on Thursday. And besides, madam, he said, addressing Mrs. Pepper, I think the climate is bad for me now, as it induces rheumatism. The hotel is also getting unpleasant. There are many annoyances that I cannot put up with, so that altogether I do not regret it. Mrs. Pepper, not knowing exactly what to say to this, wisely said nothing. Meantime, Jappy and the little Peppers were having a sorry time over in the corner by themselves. Well, all right, cried Jasper, not liking to look at Polly just then, as he was sure he shouldn't want anyone to look at him if he felt like crying. And you must answer 'em all. Oh, we will, they cried. And Jappy, do come next summer, said Joel. If father'll only say yes, we will, I tell you, he responded eagerly. Come, my boy, said his father the third time, and Jasper knew by the tone that there must be no delay. Mr. King had been nervously putting his hand in his pocket during the last few moments that the children were together, but when he glanced at Mrs. Pepper's eyes, something made him draw it out again hastily, as empty as he put it in. No, 'twouldn't do, he said to himself. She isn't the kind of woman to whom one could offer money. The children crowded back their tears and hastily said their last goodbye, some of them hanging on to Prince till the last moment. And then the carriage door shut with a bang, Jasper giving them a bright, parting smile, and they were gone, and the Peppers went into their little brown house and shut the door.
Is that it? That's it. It's your chance to speak, you fucking bitch.